Florence from the Greycoat Hospital.
Hello, and I'm Jamal Khalili, and I'm a Professor of Physics at the University of Surrey.
We have a few questions to ask you about the solar eclipse tomorrow. So
Okay.
our first one is, what is a solar eclipse?
Well, a solar eclipse happens actually more regularly than we might think. It's when the moon blocks the Earth from the sun. So when the Earth, the sun and the moon are in a line and the sun is blocked from us, it's quite lucky for us that the moon and the sun look like they're the same size from Earth. Of course, the moon's much smaller than the sun, but the sun's much further away. But what's nice then is when the moon moves in front of the sun, it completely blocks it out, and you get to see, you get to study the sun in detail that you're not able to normally.
And what can we expect to see or not to see tomorrow?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to get dark enough that we can all put on our special solar eclipse glasses and look at the sun directly, because this is something you can't do normally. But when most of the sun's light is blocked off, you can get to see the light coming just off the edges, and that's very, very beautiful.
And so what's the difference between a solar and a lunar eclipse, and which one's more frequent?
Do you know what? You're asking me a question now that I'm having to dig into my memory to remember. The lunar eclipse is when you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but the solar eclipse is when the moon blocks the sun exactly from the Earth. The moon passes in front of the sun, and a solar eclipse is when the Earth passes in front of between the sun and the moon. Right, so the Earth blocks the sun from the moon, and the solar eclipse is when the moon blocks the sun from the Earth. And the lunar eclipse is more frequent, as far as I understand.
Okay, and what is the best way to observe a solar eclipse?
Well, the best way to observe it, well, there are several ways. You can look at it directly, provided you've got the right glasses that block off the harmful rays from the sun. But you can also project the image of the sun onto a screen and look at it that way. So there's something called a pinhole camera, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So you just have the sun going through. You can actually observe the sun directly, even without an eclipse, through a pinhole camera, because you're looking at the image of the sun on a screen. I think with a solar eclipse, you want to wear those glasses and look at it directly, because that's a rare thing. You don't often get that chance.
And finally, when do scientists predict the next solar eclipse?
Well, I'd have to look that up. I'm not quite sure. The thing is that the solar eclipses that happen where you live might be quite rare. But if you're prepared to travel around the world, you can find them, I don't know, every year, 2 years, 3 years, I mean, something like that. Rather than waiting 20 years for the next one that's going to hit your part of the world, if you're prepared to travel, there are quite a few, but you can only see them from certain parts of the Earth.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.